Now, if you've been watching my videos recently, you know that I've been reviewing a bunch of Kobo devices, and I've been raving about some of their design elements compared to the Kindle ecosystem. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive review of the baseline Kobo, the Kobo Nia over here. This thing starts at $100, and we'll be looking at all the good things and the bad things compared to the other Kobos. Hi there, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Maneetpaul Singh. On this channel, we explore the power of reading books and ways you can read more books effectively. Now, buying any Kobo, regardless of which one you get, will be a great investment. They all have the same software, they all have the same functionality compared to reading physical books. So even if you buy this baseline model, you aren't going to be missing out on any of the software features that you really get, such as storing thousands of books in the cloud, being able to highlight and take notes all on your device. These are things that are totally worth it regardless of which model you get. However, there are definitely a few differences that you should know between this basic cheap model versus the higher end models. Let's take a deep dive into that. Now, as I mentioned, this device starts at $100 and you don't really have any options for customization. They only sell this one model in this one color in this one storage capacity of 8 gigabytes. Now, there are a few ways that Kobo made this device so cheap compared to the other Kobo devices. The first being is they only used a 900 megahertz processor, and they also only have 256 megabytes of RAM. That is a lot less compared to the other Kobos that have a standard of 1 gigahertz processor and 512 megabytes of RAM. Now, even with that decrease in hardware specs, I have to say that this device is not that slow. Kobo has really good software and it's really well optimized. I haven't really had any experience of it being very sluggish since I've been using it. With that being said though, the other way that Kobo saved money was using a lower resolution display. When you buy the Kobo Nia, you're only getting a 212 ppi display, which is very much less compared to the 300 ppi that you're getting with the other models. However, this is still a 6-inch display, so you're still getting that same screen size as the other devices, but you are losing out on resolution. There are a few drawbacks to this. Firstly, the text is not as crisp and the images that you look at will not look as nice. But I have to say, it isn't the worst thing in the world. When you look at it for a few minutes, you kind of get used to it, but only after you compare it to looking at your phone or another e-reader, you will see that there's some blurriness and it's not as crisp as it could be. However, the display also lacks a few other things. Most notably, this is the only Kobo that does not have the warm temperature control. And I really love that about the Kobo lineup. If you buy the next model up, the Clara HD, you'll get that temperature control. And I really think that is by itself worth the upgrade for the small price difference that you're paying for the next model up. Having that warm light makes such a big difference, and the Kindle does not have that at all. The baseline Kindle does not have warm temperature control, and even the mid-tier Kindle, the Kindle Paperwhite, does not have that at all. The only way you get that in the Kindle ecosystem is the Kindle Oasis. On the Kobo, this is the only one that doesn't have it. Just get the one right above this and you have that warm light control. And not only that, if you get the next one up, you're also getting a much better resolution screen as well as the better hardware specs. So really, I can't recommend this device to anyone because you're missing out on so many small things that you get by upgrading to just one level up. However, if you're really on a budget, this is not that bad of a device. They also save money by using plastic around the whole device. There's also not a flush screen on the front. The screen is kind of indented down a little bit. All of this is not really the biggest deal compared to the other things I've already mentioned. I don't mind the plastic. It does get fingerprints. It does have that weird textured back on the back of the device that we have come to get used to with Kobo. It gets stuck with crumbs and dust all the time, but it does work and it doesn't feel bad holding it. It definitely feels cheaper, but it doesn't feel bad. And also, just like every other e-reader that I looked at so far, the power button on this device does not fail to disappoint. It's on the bottom of the device in such a weird location next to the micro USB charger. The power button is kind of hard to press. You have to use your fingernail to kind of press in there. It does have a nice click. I have to say this power button is actually a lot nicer than the Kobo Forma, which is the highest Kobo you can buy. I've used that one and I completely hated it. This Kobo has a good power button, just in a weird location. And like I just mentioned, this also has a micro USB charger, which again, it's a 2021, it's kind of outdated right now, but you can't really complain too much with a baseline device like this. One thing I will complain about though, is they definitely use a cheaper cable compared to the other Kobos. All of the micro USB cables that I've gotten from the other Kobos are pretty good quality, but this Kobo has a noticeably different quality cable, and I don't like that they use cheaper cable for the cheaper Kobo. Now the software on this device works really great. You get all the things you would expect from a Kobo or any e-reader. I do have a few complaints about the Kobo software. I made a whole video about that, link on the screen for that right now. But I have to say, it's not a bad software experience at all. I actually prefer it for the most part over the Kindle software. Now one last thing to note is this Kobo does not have Bluetooth support. You cannot listen to audiobooks on this device, so that's something you're interested in. You're gonna have to get a Kindle because you can't get that on the Kobo. Overall, this device just does not make sense to me. I'm not too sure why anyone would buy this compared to the Clara HD. If you're gonna buy a Kobo, get the one above this model. I just don't think it's worth skipping out on those major features like a better display and better hardware for processing power. If you're interested in learning more about the Clara HD, I have a whole review video about that device. Link on the screen for that right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.